Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Approved claims in the amount of $989,353.23.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Budget review. Yep,
All
that's
right,
you.
so can you hear me?
Yep,
Oh, good, that's helpful. All right, so last time we talked about this, we reviewed the department head submittals of about a 15% increase in the operations and debt levy. The mayor and finance committee provided direction that they would feel more comfortable with a 5% increase. So with that, I had to go back to work with the mayor and the department heads to identify roughly $1 million in reductions from that initial budget summary that was presented to you. So with that, we did get that number down. And so what we're proposing right now is the operation and debt levy increase of 5%. But that actual impact on our mill rate is, we did update this too, so hopefully you got the updated version in your packet. But the proposed mill rate impact is only 2.74%, and that of course is based on our strong growth that we've been having in the city. So while the levy for operations and debt may be going up actually 5%, the actual tax impact on taxpayers would be that 2.74%. So with that, I want to touch on a couple things about kind of what's included in this budget, how we got to the $1 million number, kind of all that. So for the first part, I do want to make it very clear that this number, this levy does include some use of one-time dollars for new purchases and things that we will have to slowly phase in either in 2023 or phase in over 2023, 2024 into the actual levy. So we did have a number of one-time like new software purchases, some technology related things in both police, in fire, in general with the city, technology sort of things. These are items that were identified as definitely needed during COVID when we had to rely greatly on our IT infrastructure, things like that. So we are using some one-time money. Now that one-time money hasn't been completely identified yet. So it's either going to be a conversation we have with using the ARPA funds once we have that conversation, which I'm hoping will be coming soon, or we have money in our capital improvement funds that are available. So one way or the other, I have the dollars available to use for these, kind of one-time items. It's just deciding which pot we'll use it for, and those things will come up as we bring the items up for purchase and things like that. Remember, just because you improve things in the budget doesn't mean that they don't still come back to you later for final approval. So that will happen still. So with that said, and with stressing that we're using some one-time monies on items that we will have to factor into the long-term levy. Not a lot, but when you're trying to cut $1 million, you got to come up with everything you can come up with. So with that, the other kind of highlights of this budget are that it does include obviously the new police pay scale, pay wages that were approved with the new 4-year labor agreement. So it does include that. We have 2 new police officers included in this budget. So that's the one that was approved just a little while ago for actual hiring kind of later. I don't think we've hired yet, but hiring this year, but needing to be factored into next year's budget. And also another additional police officer on top of that. So 2 new police officers. Another priority for us is our accounting department. We do have, kind of one person I should say 2 people between Allison and Kathy, not only handling all the accounting, but Kathy also doing the more general HR administration of payroll and benefits and things like that. So we're stretched very thin there. So this budget does include a new accountant. The pay for that accountant is spread out over a number of funds, so it's not just general fund, it also includes our utility funds as well, because they'll be working with those funds too. There is a new engineering tech included in this. With the amount of work and growth that the city is experiencing, an engineering tech not only will pay for itself, but it'll actually bring in, it's estimated, it'll bring in more revenue than it costs us to have it, because with all the private developments and things like that occur, right now we generally have a third-party engineer do that work and the developers reimburse the city, where in this case they will be paying the city directly for our engineering tech doing a lot of the work. This is very similar to when Dean was brought on board as city engineer, that at a certain point it's much more cost effective for us to have an internal staff person do these things and always be contracting them out. Also, if you remember during COVID, we had a full-time administrative assistant on the third floor that worked with mostly building inspections and then some community development and parks and things. When that person resigned, we did not fill that position as a full-time position. We did fill it as a part-time, and we wanted to give ourselves some time to see as we transition kind of back out of COVID, what our staffing needs are, what do we need in that role. And so we do want to convert. We have basically 2 part-time administrative assistant positions right now. One's our front desk position, and the other one's a little bit more back of the house, although they do cover front desk as well. That helps with building inspection scheduling, elections, things like that. We want to convert one of those positions to a full-time position. So that's included in the budget. And then there's also included in the utility budget a new administrative position in that budget. That is basically there's a number of specialized things that are done by the administrative staff there that we know that we'll be having a staff person probably retiring very soon. And so this gave us a chance to have a little overlap to do some training with the reporting that we need to do with the state and things like that. So there's those sort of things. We did convert a number of administrative staff in the police and fire department to new kind of pay levels. So from, I guess I'm not sure of all the different position terms, but we advanced a number of those up into a different pay range, and that's based on the fact that their duties have changed pretty significantly over the last number of years, and it was definitely warranted. As you know, we've been kind of doing this with a number of positions over the last few years, and so this was these were ones that were really due up to have done. We do have a 2.5% cost of living adjustment in this budget for all employees. We had generally been trying to hold to a 2 the last few years, but as we've seen with these adjustments that we've been doing with staff, with some personnel, we're falling behind as far as being competitive with our pay. So it only makes sense for us to try to keep that cost of living adjustment in line more with inflation so that we don't have to do bigger adjustments later. Another big piece of this budget is that our health insurance increases came in at under 2%. You're seeing a lot of cities that are seeing definitely double-digit increases. Ours was budgeted for more than 2, came in at under 2. We were actually, I think, budgeting around 5% or so. And so that was a big savings for us to have that come in so low. And then also, as I kind of mentioned at the very end, there's a lot of technology improvements that we're doing that we're going to use some one-time money for that we will factor in later. So I guess with all of that, we ended up, like I said, cutting just a little over $1 million out to get to this 5% levy increase. But if you look, we attached the projection of what it would mean for the city portion of taxes on various valued properties. So basically, if you own a $500,000 home, your value does not change. Your taxes would go up about $57 under this budget proposal. So I guess with that, by again thanking the mayor and the department heads for all the work on helping getting this number down, I'd be open to any questions. I know it's a huge amount of information to kind of roll through. So if you have any questions at all about any of the budget items, anything like that, I'm open to trying to answer whatever I can.
Anybody?
What
Aaron, it's Randy, what big items did we cut in particular that maybe we should take a look at?
So honestly, a lot of it was personnel. So we
course.
had a request for, I believe, a total of 4 police officers. Maybe it was 3. I'm trying to remember exactly, but we ended up with the 1 besides the one we
3.
already improved. We had some parks positions. We had some things like that. So, the department heads put in their preliminary positions they would really like. And then when it got down to it, we had the conversation about what's really realistic this year, this coming year, what can we do? And even with the police ones, while I think Jeff always would like, it needs a few more, the reality of adding a lot of officers at once is difficult. So the phasing in of the additional officers over the next few years, I think will be it's a smoother way to do it as well. And then it's just kind of really sharpening the pencil as far as a lot of maybe extra items, capital things, stuff like that we can push to another year. Items that maybe in the past we had budgeted for in the levy, but we should maybe be using more capital funds to pay for some of that equipment and things because they vary so much. So, honestly, it wasn't a lot of big items. It was just a whole lot of small to medium-sized items that added up.
Okay, so if you have these items that you say were not, that are one ticket pay or one pay items, what are they? Because I don't want to make an informed decision
Yep.
without knowing what those are, and you didn't send it, I don't believe.
No, I didn't include all those ones in there. So what we'd be looking at with that is there's some new, I guess Jeff can maybe explain a little better. There's some new technology additions in the police department for body cameras and things like that we needed. For IT, there's new things like managed services that helps to kind of take care of all of our IT assets instead of doing little piecemeal things, but one big system that helps to do it. There's updated server space, things like that. There's equipment. So like on the fire side, they had a new truck that they were going to be purchasing. There's some new turnout gear, things like that. So items like that instead of including in the budget directly, we're either going to use capital for, which would be like the vehicle, the turnout gear, stuff like that. And then the one-time money for the software, knowing that we're going to have to phase those sort of things in. But even if we have to phase them in, they're not a huge number. It's just when we had so much this year that we were doing, we had to find every little piece that we could to kind of get there.
But
So
we
I can
have those
send,
funds, right? Those funds are
Yep.
there to spend on that one time, correct?
correct. That's what the use of them is for.
So now, moving forward, the potential CAD to CAD with the county and the Lina, that I sent you that email with the
Yep.
numbers. The monthly maintenance fee, is that something that would be included in the budget coming forward, or? would
Yep,
it
so
be-
then we would probably do like we did this one, where we'll use one-time money for the startup costs to, initially purchase the software we need or do whatever that is to get it installed. But then you include in your levy or your operating budget every year that whatever that annual maintenance fee is or whatever that might be.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how we would do it.
Thank you, but can we get that breakdown of those items?
Yep, I'll send the council and finance committee the list of all those items.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Yes, is a salary study included in this budget?
So I don't have the salary study. We have some areas where we can pull that money from. So we had talked about, we have been doing these kind of one-off salary reviews of employees as needed sort of thing. So we are getting proposals right now from some different companies to do a study like that so we can get a better handle on what the cost is. My guess is going to be maybe in the $20,000 range. So we do have money in the budget that we could use for that, but it's not specifically earmarked for it yet, just because we weren't ready to bring forward any sort of proposals and get more council discussion on it. But there is money there that can be used for it, and we are going through the process to try to get some quotes right now and then bring it forward to the council.
So where is that money in the budget?
So right now, we have a little bit set aside in our capital, and then we also have it in our general contingency is where I kind of earmarked part of that funding. We usually have about 40,000 in general contingency, and so I had earmarked a little bit that a portion would probably come from that. And then because we'd also be looking at utility pay and things like that, we would also be taking some of the money then from our utility funds as well.
And then the library is flat. What can we do to help the library? The library is gonna be in really bad shape next year.
So thank you for actually bringing that up. I had that on my list and then I didn't check all my boxes. So what we did for the library is Shelley and I did sit down and review their lease. So the hard part for for all the library partners right now under our current system is that, anytime that we do any sort of large increase for them, it then gets factored into all future increases as our 3-year average that we'd have to pay. And it may be while we may want to do a one-time bump, it's hard for us to do that and then potentially sustain that. So also with what will be updated during the council meeting from the mayor, a little bit about what we've been working on for long-term funding solutions for the library. We thought this year, or I should say in 2022, the best way to address our helping the library is by looking at their lease and what they pay the city. And we worked through some of the numbers to, kind of better refine what square footage they're actually using, things like that. And so we did end up eliminating a little over $50,000 from their lease to the city. That's included in this budget. So we're actually giving them a $50,000 bump next year, which is more than if we gave them the usual 2%, 3% increase or whatever it might be. So we are doing that, and that's a long-term also change as well. So it will be for next year, but also we're going to have to work out a new lease agreement with them still. And moving forward, they'll be looking at a lower lease amount, which helps them long-term as well. So really with this one, what we're doing is we're doing the one-time savings of a little over $50,000 in their lease payment. And then next year, when we actually look at the 2023 funding, hopefully we've got it worked out where we have a new funding system in place that will be finally adequately funding the library for long-term.
Are the partners doing anything to improve the library funding?
I don't know what they've all approved for their various increases. I'm not sure. So I don't know that answer.
Thanks.
Yep.
Anything else?
I just wanted, this is Councilman Alms. Just wondering what the line of sight, so next meeting, we will approve the budget, is that right?
Yes, that would be the goal.
Okay, so there's some minor questions that I can email you about, some between the requested and the proposed.
Yep, that's not a problem.
And I'll just email you those questions.
Okay, yep, that would be good.
Thanks.
Just to clarify for the general public, Aaron, I want to make sure that requested and then proposed. So
Yeah.
we are going to propose, if it doesn't change, but probably will, about 4.24 per thousand.
Right. Yep, that's exactly what what we're thinking that will be proposed. That's what we're recommending proposed at least, which would be, like I said, it's a 2.74% mill rate increase.
Give or take a couple percentage or decimal.
Little decimals at the end there, yeah. So like I said, what that means then is if you have a $500,000 property and your value stays the same, your city portion of taxes would go up about $57.
Yeah, I just think it's important. Perception's reality right now, and everything seems to be inflation, and the last thing we want to do is slam a hardcore mill rate increase on everybody.
Yep, and I think even with this increase, we're still going to be at the bottom, very close to the bottom, and we'll check that once we see everybody else's levies. But we still should be in our area one of the lowest mill rates still with all this.
Thanks.
Aaron, I missed that. What was the value, the home value that you used in your example?
$500,000. Any property value, basically $500,000.
Okay.
As long as that value holds steady, which honestly with our assessments and stuff, it should be pretty close. We had a bunch of, last year was wonky because we finished up the full citywide reevaluation, so we had a lot of property values swing dramatically. But this year, because we did that last year, it's just kind of a maintenance year. Most properties should not see a major change in their values. And so with that, like I said, if your value comes in at about $500,000, you'll see about a $60 increase in your city share taxes, $57.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Everybody good? All right, there's no action to be taken on this, or are we sending this to council for next meeting?
Yep, so next meeting, we'll have the public hearing on the budget, as we've presented to you, and then we'll take any comment that they receive, any changes the council wants then, we'd like to get it adopted next meeting, so that's our goal.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.